There are roads we once believed we had left behind forever. There are houses we thought existed only in old memories. And yet, one day when youth is no longer restless, when the heart grows quiet like a lake after the wind, we finally realize there are things we can never truly leave behind. The small room was bathed in the fading light of late afternoon. Sunlight spilled through the window, catching the dust suspended in the air, like old memories slowly finding their way back. On the worn wooden chair, James sat in silence, his arms wrapped tightly around the time-worn letters pressed to his chest, as if the moment he let go, all those memories would disappear. The desk drawer was still open. Envelopes lay stacked together, the paper curved and brittle with the years. Each letter felt like a fragment of a life that had never been spoken aloud. James had read through them, slowly, trembling, until at some point he no longer had the strength to go on. In the stillness of the room, time itself seemed to stop. Old memories, youthful days of foolish innocence, unfinished chapters of a life. All of them were returning, rising from deep within his chest, where regret and an unspoken love had been quietly smoldering all along. James closed his eyes, and then the letters began to tell their own story.
James! I don't even know where to begin. You grew up, and one day I realized the distance between us had become longer than the road from our house to the highway. When you were little, every time you fell, you would run to me, cling to my leg, crying and complaining. But now, you only stay silent. I don't know the right words to say anymore. I'm afraid that if I speak, I'll only make you sadder. So I chose silence. But now I finally understand. Silence is also a way of hurting you.
James closed his eyes. His entire childhood rushed back. Those afternoons standing under the porch. The arguments that never became words. The heavy silences he once mistook for distance, only to realize they had always been a clumsy kind of love. He set the letter down, but his heart could not. A faint scent from the past seemed to fill the kitchen. The smell of wood smoke, the scent of his father's clothes soaked with sweat after long days at the construction site. The smell of things that would never return again. James did not stop. He couldn't stop. With trembling hands, he opened the second letter. The handwriting was stronger, more urgent, as if it had been written during a long, sleepless night.
Today, you and I argued. I spoke harshly. Not because I was angry with you, but because I was afraid. Afraid that you would leave. People teach men to be strong, to be the pillar of the family, to never say the words, "Please don't go." But when you closed the door, without looking back at me, I finally realized that even a man can feel deeply lonely.
James opened his eyes. The old wall before him felt as if it had cracked open into two separate skies. He remembered that afternoon. His father stood beneath the porch. He stood out by the gate. The distance was only a few steps. Yet it felt farther than an entire lifetime. James' chest tightened. He took a deep breath. But the feeling did not fade. It rose inside him like a rising tide. His hand reached for the next letter, as if an unseen force was pulling him forward, not allowing him to turn back. The paper was wrinkled, one corner still stained with an old mark of water.
James! You're gone now. Every evening, your mother still sets out an extra bowl of rice for you. She says, "What if he comes home tomorrow?" And as for me, I say nothing. But every time I look at that bowl, my heart aches, as if someone is squeezing it tight. I didn't know how to keep you from leaving. All I could do was stand there and watch. just like when you were learning to walk as a child. I didn't dare run to catch you, because I was afraid that if I kept holding you up, you would never learn how to stand on your own.
The words grew heavier. The room suddenly felt smaller. James set the letter down, but his heart remained caught between its lines. Only now did he understand. In his silence, his father had been loving him, in a way no one could see. It wasn't that he didn't care. He simply never knew how to say it. A quiet pain slipped into James' chest, gentle, yet deep. He raised his hand to his lips, but no words would come. And still, he went on. He had to, because once a person touches a wound like this, there is no turning back. He opened the fourth letter. At the bottom of the page was a date, the day his mother passed away.
James, today your mother passed away. Before she closed her eyes, she held my hand and said, "If he ever comes home, please don't blame him anymore." I nodded. But inside my heart, I no longer knew where to place my sorrow. I'm writing this letter, not to reproach you, but to say that, in this lifetime, there is one thing I have done wrong. I never learned how to love you in a way you could understand.
A single tear fell onto the wooden table. James didn't wipe it away, because there are tears, not meant to be hidden, but meant to answer the past. He leaned forward. Inside the box, there was still one last letter, thinner, more fragile, like a story that had never been allowed to end. The final letter. The handwriting was slow, weak, pausing in the middle of many lines.
If one day you come home, I won't need you to apologize. All I wish is that you sit here with me and share a meal, just like we used to. But if you cannot return in time, I hope you won't carry this burden in your heart. In this world, no child is ever wrong for wanting to go far. There are only fathers who never learned how to make their children stay.
The words stopped halfway through the page. There was no final line, no ending punctuation, only an empty space, a space no one could ever fill again. James pressed the letters against his chest. The house was silent, but for the first time. Within that silence, he could hear his father's voice, speaking to him clearly. Outside, the night wind gently brushed against the roof. The kitchen light cast a soft glow over the old wooden table. James whispered, his voice trembling. "Dad, I've read them. I can hear you now." And in that moment, he felt as if a hand had been placed upon his shoulder, warm, steady, weighty, just like the hand from years ago, the one he had once pulled away from. But now, all he wished was to hold on to it. One more time. James closed the final letter, his aging hands still trembling softly. The ink had faded with the passing years. Along with all the words he had never found the courage to say out loud. In the quiet of the room, he felt, more clearly than ever, the vast distance between himself and the past. A distance built from stubborn pride, youth, and all the times he had walked away without looking back. The letters rested on his chest like the last lingering warmth of his father. But at the same time, they awakened within James another ache, a silent love he had unknowingly left behind for an entire lifetime. Slowly, he rose to his feet. The evening light faded beyond the window, and his shadow stretched long across the worn floor. At the end of the hallway, the door to the old kitchen remained slightly ajar. The place where a gentle, patient woman had once called out to him, the one who had always stood behind every choice he made, whether right or wrong. James stopped in front of the door. For a moment, he could almost hear the soft clinking of pots and pans, the quiet footsteps, and the warm fragrance of wood smoke returning from the past. He took a deep breath, and then James stepped into the old kitchen.